After the last break fails, how the end of New START returned the world to nuclear roulette. For half a century, nuclear stability rested on paperwork, inspections, and mutual suspicion. Now, even fragile architecture has collapsed. What remains is power, guesswork, and luck. A silent turning point. The expiration of the New START treaty passed with little fanfare. There were no emergency summits, no dramatic denunciations, no televised ceremonies marking their end. The agreement simply lapsed, like an outdated subscription quietly cancelled, yet something momentous had occurred. For the first time since the early 1970s, the United States and Russia, together controlling nearly 90% of the world's nuclear weapons, found themselves without any legally binding limits on their strategic arsenals. No ceilings. No inspections. No verification. Half a century of managed nuclear rivalry had given way to something older and more perilous: unconstrained competition. The disappearance of New START did not merely end a treaty. It ended an era, a system built on fear. Arms control was never an act of moral enlightenment. It was a concession to reality. After the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, Washington and Moscow grasped an uncomfortable truth: unlimited nuclear rivalry was not a display of strength. It was a method of collective suicide. Survival requires restraint. From this realization emerged a dense network of agreements: START, INF, and ABM, designed to regulate rivalry rather than eliminate it. These treaties impose limits, established inspections, and institutionalized transparency. They did not generate trust. They managed mistrust. New START, signed in 2010, was the last surviving pillar of this architecture. It capped deployed warheads and delivery systems, mandated data exchanges, and authorized on-site inspections. It functioned as a stabilizer in an unstable relationship. It was the final brake on a runaway machine. Now the brake is gone. Warnings without consequences. As New START approached its expiration, warnings multiplied. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, warned that the world was entering its most dangerous period in decades. President Vladimir Putin floated temporary extensions. The United Nations Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, called the moment uniquely perilous. Across the Atlantic, concern was more muted. Under President Donald Trump, arms control was treated as a bad deal, something to discard and renegotiate later. If New START expired, it could be replaced by something better. In practice, it was replaced by nothing. Political capital was scarce. Domestic incentives were weak. Arms control had become unfashionable. The treaty did not collapse. It was abandoned. The arithmetic of escalation. In the absence of legal limits, nuclear competition follows a predictable logic. Each side insists that its actions are defensive: modernization, not expansion; compensation, not escalation; balance, not dominance. Each justification is internally coherent. Together, they produce instability. When one side upgrades, the other must respond. When one deploys, the other interprets. No government wishes to be the weakest player in a lethal game. The result is not a dramatic sprint, but a slow marathon: incremental expansion, steady investment, quiet accumulation. It is a race conducted in budgets and laboratories rather than parades. But it is a race, nonetheless. The end of strategic visibility. Perhaps the most dangerous consequence of New START's demise is the loss of verified information. Under the treaty, both sides exchanged detailed data on warheads, launchers, and deployments. Inspectors visited bases. Movements were monitored. Claims were cross-checked. This created strategic predictability. Without it, governments must rely on intelligence estimates, satellite imagery, intercepted communications, and inference. These tools are valuable. They are also fallible. Errors multiply. Worst-case assumptions flourish. Ambiguity becomes threatening. History is littered with near catastrophes triggered by faulty data and misinterpretation. Arms control reduced such risks. Its absence magnifies them. Deterrence by guesswork. Traditional deterrence depends on clarity. Each side must know what the other possesses, how it might use it, and what it considers unacceptable. When transparency erodes, deterrence becomes speculation. planners exaggerate threats to avoid underestimating them. Military doctrines prioritize speed over stability. Launch-on warning postures gain appeal, decision time shrinks. In an era of hypersonic weapons, cyber interference, and automated systems, this compression is dangerous. Removing arms control makes it lethal, a global signal of irresponsibility. When the world's two largest nuclear powers abandon restraint, others draw conclusions. China accelerates its modernization. India and Pakistan expand. North Korea entrenches. Iran recalculates, the non-proliferation regime, nominally overseen by the United Nations, weakens further. Rules depend on precedent. When leading powers ignore them, compliance becomes optional. The result is gradual erosion, not collapse. More weapons, more doctrines, more overlapping red lines. Complexity rises. Stability falls, making the unthinkable thinkable. One of the most unsettling trends in contemporary strategy is the normalization of nuclear use. During much of the Cold War, nuclear weapons were politically unusable. Their value lay in deterrence, not employment. That taboo is fading. Modern doctrines increasingly discuss limited nuclear options and controlled escalation. War games routinely incorporate nuclear scenarios. Analysts debate thresholds and yields. Without arms control, such thinking appears legitimate. If weapons are neither limited nor exceptional, they become tools. History suggests that tools eventually get used. Why cooperation failed? The collapse of New START was not preordained. It reflected political choices. Three forces proved decisive: geopolitical hostility, Ukraine, sanctions, cyber warfare, and mutual suspicion poisoned relations. Arms control became collateral damage. Transactional politics. Treaties were recast as negotiable assets. If they did not deliver immediate advantage, they would be expendable. The China dilemma. America wanted Beijing included. Beijing declined. Moscow saw little incentive to intervene. Deadlock followed. Three paths forward. The post-New START world offers three possible trajectories: escalation, arsenals expand, competition intensifies, crises multiply, informal restraint, tacit limits replace formal ones. Stability depends on discretion and goodwill. Reconstruction, a new multilateral framework restores transparency. The third is desirable. The second is fragile. The first is most likely. The world is drifting between restraint and rivalry, with momentum favoring the latter. Governing by fortune, arms control never guaranteed safety. It reduced probability. It lowered the odds of miscalculation. It slowed escalation. It bought time. Its disappearance transfers responsibility from institutions to individuals. From systems to personalities, stability now depends on the rationality of leaders, the reliability of machines, the absence of accidents. These are weak foundations. The nuclear age has always involved risk. Arms control managed it. Its collapse amplifies it. The return of nuclear roulette. New START did not fail because it was ineffective. It failed because it was no longer valued. In an era dominated by grievance, nationalism, and transactional politics, cooperative restraint appeared naive. Yet restraint was never idealism. It was self-preservation. The post-New START world is not one of imminent apocalypse. It is more troubling. Permanent instability. Crises will be sharper. Errors are more costly. Recovery's more uncertain. Peace will persist, but without insurance. It will depend on judgment, coincidence, and restraint without rules. History suggests that such arrangements do not last. For now, humanity has returned to nuclear roulette. The wheel is spinning. No one knows where it will stop.